Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how I paint a Christmas wreath with white flowers. Now, last week I shared some tips for painting white flowers. So if you missed that, you can go back to last week's video. I will have it linked down in the description box below. So first things first, I'm going to paint myself a little guideline. It's not meant to be super dark or anything. I just want a little something here so that I can see exactly where I'm going to be painting my leaves. And actually, I'm going to start things a little bit different than I normally do. I usually wait until the very end to add my sentiment, but I'm going to add a little something right in the center so I can kind of paint my leaves and everything around it. I'm just kind of freehanding this. And I'm trying to make this really, really light. It looks pretty good. I'm not going to be too picky. Let's see, I'm going to use my size 0. I'm going to use Payne's Gray, which is more like a really deep blue. Almost looks black when it's not very watered down. I'm not worrying about my pencil lines right now because once this is completely dry, I can just go back over and erase what's not covered up by watercolor paint. I just wanted something down so that I could kind of see where I'm going here. That A is not what I was going for, but that's okay. If I was going to digitize this, I might just adjust that after I digitize it. Okay, so I should have probably written out my word and then drawn my guideline because now I can see that I need to shift it just slightly. So I'm just going to paint kind of a new guideline. This is all going to be painted over anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. And then once this is completely dry, I can go back in and erase some of those pencil lines. Not everything will be erased, just what's showing on the white will be erased. And that's all I'm going for. Okay, so I'm going to start by mixing a really, really pale kind of gray color using this Payne's Gray. And it's really watered down. I'm going to darken it up a little bit more than what I normally would, just for this video. Adding a little bit of a peach color into that. This is Jaune Brilliant. I think that's how you say it. Don't make fun of how I pronounce things. I think that's right. And I'm adding a little bit of that peach color because blue and peach kind of, blue and orange cancel each other out. But I'm using this deep, dark blue, so I want to use a light peach. I don't want it to go too brown or anything. And this is going to be my flower color. So I'm just going to, and it feels really dark, but I am painting this darker just so you can see it. I'm just going to go in and paint my petals where I want them. Now the guideline that I painted might have been a little bit too dark for these kind of white flowers happening here, but I'm just gonna run with it and see what happens. And I'm just placing these kind of guidelines. This first wash, I'm not really paying attention to the overall shape, just because I can take care of that later when I add shadows and final details. I just want to get these in place so that I know where I'm going to add other things in later. Now this color is Deep Scarlet, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of alizarin crimson and perylene maroon just to darken it up a little tiny bit. And then I'm going to add in some red berries. I always love berries in any composition, but especially in a Christmas wreath. They just make everything look so festive and pretty. And if you don't want a ton of red in your wreath, then this is a great way to add it in. Just as a little pop of color. I don't want to add too many touches of red, just a little bit. All right, now I'm going to start with my lightest color of green. So this is several different greens mixed together. I have hooker's green, sap green, perylene green, all just kind of mixed together. I'm going to place a really light leaf throughout. I'm starting with my lightest color because then it will be easier to layer over the top of it later. Then I'm going to slightly change the color of the green and add in just a slightly different variety. And I love it when I get these bleeds happening. I can't always plan them out, but when they happen, I really like it because I feel like it just helps everything transition and blend together. Really, really nice. And you'll notice that I'm kind of jumping around the wreath as I go. I'm not like painting it all the way through. And that's just because I can easily control the color balance as I go. I can tell what kind of colors I need, and then I can go in and add them all at once instead of add a little bit at a time. Okay, I'm going to go in with a darker green, and to get that I've just used the same colors, just less water, and a little bit of raw umber violet and Payne's gray mixed in. I love using the colors that are already on my palette. Now, because I have this blue in the title here, sentiment, I'm going to add blue as the centers here to kind of tie those together. I'm also going to add just a tiny bit of this cobalt turquoise into my green. Just so I have a little bit of a blue-green color in here. Okay, now with just sap green, and then a little bit of a red color. This is Rose Doré. I just feel like it needs a little bit of brightness. And I'm just kind of layering things right over the top of what I've already got going on. Especially with Christmas wreaths, I like things to feel really, really full, and it's really fun. Okay, now is the fun part. I get to go back and add in some, well, it's all the fun part. Let's be real. I love painting. But this part is when it really comes to life. This is when I'm going to add the shadows onto my flowers, my white flowers, and then the center details. So going back to that really pale gray color that I mixed, I'm just going to add a little bit more to that light color. And then I'm going to determine where kind of the shadows are and add those defining shadows in. Now, I'm not looking at a reference photo for these. I'm just kind of determining where shadows would be and guessing a lot. If you wanted to look at a reference photo, you totally could. And then just darken the spots that have shadows. Now, I'm not outlining. I'm trying not to anyway. And if I feel like I've kind of outlined a little bit too much, I'm just going to go in with my paintbrush and plain water, and then I can blend it out a little bit. Because adding shadows is not the same as outlining. Just to kind of soften up that edge. I let these dry a little bit too much, so that's why it's not blending out as nice. Okay, now I need these to dry completely before I add the centers in. Otherwise that would just completely ruin what I've already done. But I am going to go in and add some darker details in here. Okay, these are still wet. I'm just going to continue to wait because if I try to hurry this process, it's just going to ruin everything. So this is a good time to add any other details in the greenery that you want to. I could go in and maybe add touches of gold, which I think I'm going to. Now that I say that, I think I'm going to. So I've got my Brilliant Gold gouache. I like using this paint wet because I get just a stronger gold. I could use what's already on my palette, but it won't be nearly as pigmented. And I really like that gold to pop and stand out. I'll leave a link down in the description box below for this gold paint. It is so beautiful in person. The video really doesn't do it justice. It's so pretty. I don't want to go crazy with the gold, even though I kind of want to. It's so pretty. I'm just being mindful of where it is in my wreath, and that's kind of where I'm deciding to add lines. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. It kind of adds a fun little detail. Okay, let's see. This one looks like it's dry, so I'm going to start with that one. I'm going back to that same Payne's Gray color. Looks like this one is dry too. If I painted this dark center and these were still wet, that blue would just seep right into those light shadows. In fact, some of this is still wet, but just because I've already painted it, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna wait to add these little dots until that's totally dry, and then I can go back in and kind of darken that up a little bit. This is still drying. I don't recommend touching your painting to know if it's dry, just because you can pick up paint that you don't want to with your finger. But because it's such a light color, and that's where I'm adding my center, that's why I just kind of lightly touched my painting. Okay, that seems like it's dry enough. That is still very wet, so I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna tie in this blue a little bit more. I only need a couple of touches to kind of connect everything. Make it look like this blue belongs in the painting. Now I'll also leave a link down in the description box for kind of my Christmas playlist. I have all of the videos I've ever done for the holiday season, and I've put them in a playlist so that you can easily find all of them. Okay, please leave a comment down below and tell me if you learned anything new from this video, and ask me a question. I take a lot of the questions and make new videos with what you ask. So if there's something that you're stuck on or you're wondering about, ask it down below and it might turn into a future video. Thanks again for watching. Bye!